I used to tell people my hair just needed a trim for almost 2 years, when the truth was the whole style had quietly gone out of date around me. Today we're looking at 5 hairstyles that are doing more damage to how old you look than any wrinkle ever could, and exactly what to ask for instead. I researched the worst style and beauty mistakes and the best fixes for women over 50, so you get real results fast. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, because I cover this every single week. Part 1. The flat, overgrown bob that's quietly aging you. Here's something almost nobody tells you about the classic shoulder-length bob. Past a certain point, it isn't the cut that's aging you, it's the flatness at the crown. Hair naturally loses density as we get older, and a bob with no internal shape just sits there, pressing everything down toward gravity. You've seen it in old photos of yourself. The same length you wore at 40 is somehow reading 15 years older now, and it's not your face that changed. I felt this exact thing at my cousin's daughter's wedding 2 years ago. I caught a photo someone else took of me from across the room, not one of my careful mirror angles, and I almost didn't recognize the woman in it. My hair looked like it belonged to someone tired. That was the moment I finally called my stylist and said the words that changed everything for me. The fix is what stylists call internal layering with root lift blow drying, and it works because it attacks the actual problem, which is weight, not length. You don't need to go short. You need your stylist to remove bulk from underneath the top layer, so the hair on top has room to lift instead of being crushed flat by the hair beneath it. Ask for this exact phrase. Please add internal layers through the crown and blow dry with a round brush lifting at the root. That sentence alone will get you a completely different result than a generic trim. Here's the part that surprised me most. Once those internal layers are in, you don't even need to style hard every morning. The shape holds itself because the weight distribution is finally working with you instead of against you. I went from a 20-minute blow-dry routine to about 8 minutes, and the result looked more finished than the 20-minute version ever did. And here's the part that actually changes how people treat you, not just how you look. Volume at the crown reads as energy. It's a strange but well-documented thing in portrait photography. Flat hair reads as tired, lifted hair reads as alert, present, engaged. People started commenting that I seemed lighter, before they could even articulate what had changed. Nobody said, "Your hair looks less flat." They said I looked well. That's the real payoff of this fix, and it's the one nobody explains when they're just telling you to get layers. There's a smaller detail inside this fix that matters just as much, where the layers start. Too high, and you get a mushroom shape. Too low, and you barely notice a difference. Ask specifically for layers starting at the crown, blended down through the mid-lengths, not chopped in as a separate section. That blending is what keeps it looking like your hair, not like a wig shape sitting on top of your head. The before was flat, heavy, and pressed close to the scalp, the kind of shape that photographs older than you actually are. The after is lifted at the root, soft through the layers, and moves when you walk instead of sitting there like a helmet. It's a small technical change with a completely disproportionate visual payoff. But the crown isn't the only place hair quietly betrays your age. There's a length everyone assumes is safe and classic, and it might be doing the exact opposite of what you think. Part 2. The safe, long length that's actually working against you. There's a quiet belief a lot of us carry into our 60s. That long hair reads as youthful because it did when we were younger. But past a certain point, uniform length without shape does the opposite of what you'd expect. It doesn't soften your face, it just hangs there, pulling everything downward, including your features. Stylists have a name for this effect, and once you hear it, you'll never unsee it in old photos of yourself. It's called face drag, and it happens because straight, one-length hair acts like a frame with no give in it. As skin naturally softens with age, that rigid frame doesn't complement the face anymore. It exaggerates every downward line instead of countering it. I heard this from my own stylist while she was sectioning my hair for what I thought was just a routine trim. And I remember sitting there thinking, that's exactly what's been bothering me, and I never had the words for it. The fix here is a long layered shag, cut with what's called point cutting through the ends rather than a single blunt line. Point cutting removes weight in small vertical increments instead of one straight cut, so the ends break up softly instead of hanging in a heavy sheet. Ask your stylist for this specific phrasing. Keep the length, but point cut the ends and add long layers starting around cheekbone height. That's different from asking for layers alone, because it tells them exactly where the movement needs to begin. What surprised me most is how much lighter the whole style felt, not just visually but literally. One length hair carries all its weight at the very bottom, which is exactly why it drags. Once that weight gets broken up through layers starting at cheekbone height, the ends start to move independently instead of swinging as one heavy unit. The frame around your face softens because the hair itself has finally stopped fighting gravity in one direction. There's a second layer to this fix that most people skip, and it's the one that makes the biggest visual difference. Face framing pieces cut slightly shorter around the cheekbones. These shorter pieces catch the light differently and draw the eye upward toward your eyes and cheekbones instead of downward toward your jaw. Ask for face framing layers a few inches shorter than the rest, cut with point cutting for softness. This single addition is often the difference between a shag that looks intentional and one that just looks a little shorter than before. I want to be honest about something here, because I think it matters. For months I resisted this change because I associated long, straight hair with being put together. What I didn't realize is that put together and current aren't the same thing, and the shag doesn't sacrifice elegance. It just redirects where the eye goes. The first time I saw the finished result in natural light, my face looked more awake, not because anything about my skin had changed, but because the hair around it was finally doing its job. The before was one uniform length, heavy at the ends, pulling the whole face downward with it. The after is a long layered shag with point-cut ends and shorter face framing pieces, moving freely and lifting the eye instead of dragging it. Same length in both photos, almost. Completely different effect. Now if you think length is the only thing quietly working against you, wait until you hear what your part line has been doing this whole time. Part 3. The center part that's been aging you for decades. Nobody ever tells you this, but the part in your hair has more influence over how old you look than almost any other single detail, and most of us have been wearing the wrong one since we were 25 and never questioned it since. A rigid, dead center part creates perfect symmetry, and perfect symmetry is exactly what starts to work against softer, more mature features. Here's the mechanism, and it's one I didn't understand until a stylist explained it to me directly. As faces mature, the natural asymmetry we all have becomes slightly more visible. One brow sits a touch higher. One side of the jaw softens differently than the other. A center part draws a hard vertical line straight down the middle of that natural asymmetry, which makes the eye compare both sides directly against each other. A side part does the opposite. It breaks that direct comparison and lets each side of the face read on its own terms. The fix is what's called a deep side part, positioned specifically above the arch of your eyebrow rather than just off to one side. That precise placement matters more than people realize. Too subtle, and it barely reads as different from a center part. Too extreme, and it can look severe rather than soft. Ask for this exact phrase at your next appointment. Move my part to a deep side part starting just above my eyebrow arch, and blend it so the roots don't show a hard line. The blending detail is the part most people get wrong when they try this themselves at home. A deep side part done poorly just looks like a center part pushed slightly to one side, with an obvious hard line where the scalp shows through. What makes it work is diagonal blending, meaning the hair is combed and layered so it flows diagonally away from the new part rather than sitting flat against it. This is worth asking your stylist to do for you the first time, even if you plan to maintain it yourself afterward, because seeing it done correctly once changes how you replicate it at home. The result caught me off guard the first time I saw it. My whole face looked more balanced, not because anything about my bone structure had changed, but because the hard vertical line that used to invite direct side-by-side comparison was simply gone. One side of my hair now swept diagonally across part of my forehead, softening the transition instead of announcing it. Friends who hadn't seen me in a few months kept asking if I'd done something with my brows or my skincare. I hadn't touched either one. There's a small styling habit that locks this in for good, and it's one most tutorials skip. After the part is set, use a small amount of product only at the root on the heavier side, pressing it slightly downward rather than lifting it. This keeps the deeper side of the part from puffing back toward center throughout the day, which is the single most common reason a deep side part collapses back into looking like a center part by mid-afternoon. The before was a rigid dead center part with a hard line straight down the scalp, inviting direct comparison between both sides of the face. The after is a deep side part above the eyebrow arch, diagonally blended with no visible line, softening the whole face instead of dividing it. But a part line is subtle. What we're covering next is anything but subtle. And if you've been holding on to this particular color choice out of habit, this next part might sting a little. Part 4. The over-processed all-over color that's dulling everything. Here's a truth almost no colorist says out loud to your face. A flat, uniform, all-over color, even a beautifully applied one, can actually age you more than the gray it's covering. It's not the color itself that's the problem. It's the flatness. Natural hair, even fully gray hair, has variation in it, subtle shifts in tone that catch light differently across the head. A single process, one-tone color removes all of that variation at once, and the result reads as artificial in a way that's hard to name but easy to feel. I want to tell you about the moment this actually clicked for me, because it wasn't in a salon, it was standing under fluorescent grocery store lighting, catching my reflection in a freezer door. My hair looked flat in a way I couldn't explain in warmer light at home. It wasn't dull because it was unhealthy. It was dull because it had no depth left in it. Every strand was reflecting light exactly the same way. And flat, uniform reflection reads as artificial to the eye even when we can't consciously identify why. The fix colorists reach for is called lowlights woven through a base color, sometimes paired with a few soft highlights near the crown. Lowlights are simply strands colored slightly darker than your base, placed in a pattern that mimics how natural variation actually falls in hair. Ask for this exact phrasing at your next color appointment. Please weave in lowlights 2 to 3 shades darker than my base, concentrated at the mid-lengths, with a few soft highlights near the crown for lift. This single sentence gets you dimension instead of another flat, single process color. The reason this works comes down to something colorists call light bounce. When strands of slightly different tones sit next to each other, light hits each one differently and bounces at slightly different angles, creating a subtle shimmer effect as you move. A flat single process color can't do this, because every strand is absorbing and reflecting light identically. Once lowlights are woven through, your hair starts catching light the way it did naturally when you had more tonal range in it. And that shimmer is what reads as healthy and current instead of flat and dated. I noticed the difference most in photographs, oddly enough. In flat lighting, the lowlights barely show. But in the kind of dappled, mixed light you get outdoors, or under a mix of warm and cool bulbs indoors, my hair suddenly had movement and depth in every photo instead of looking like a solid block of color. My daughter actually asked if I'd gotten a completely new haircut, and I hadn't touched the length at all, only the color pattern underneath it. There's a maintenance detail worth knowing before you commit to this. Lowlights and highlights woven together grow out far more gracefully than a flat single process color does. Because the color isn't uniform to begin with, new growth at the root blends into the pattern instead of creating one obvious visible line. This means you can often stretch the time between color appointments longer than you could with all-over color, which is a detail worth mentioning to your colorist if appointment frequency is a factor for you. The before was a flat, single process, all-over color with no tonal variation, absorbing light evenly and reading as artificial. The after is woven lowlights through the mid-lengths with soft crown highlights, catching light differently across the head, and reading as natural dimension instead of a solid block of color. There's one more style left on this list, and it might be the most common one of all, worn by more women over 60 than any other single style we've covered today. Part 5. The short, tight curl set that's reading older than you are. I need to say this gently because I know this style has deep roots for a lot of us, sometimes going back to our mothers and grandmothers, but the tightly set, uniform curl pattern, the kind that gets reset every week into the same rounded shape, is the single most aging style on this entire list. And it's not because short hair ages you. It's because uniform, tightly wound curls with no variation in size read instantly as a set style rather than natural texture. And set styles read as older to the eye almost automatically. Here's what's actually happening visually, and it surprised me when a stylist walked me through it. Tight, uniform curls of identical size create a repeating pattern across the whole head, almost like a texture stamped on rather than grown. The eye recognizes repeating, identical patterns as manufactured rather than organic, even subconsciously, and that recognition is what reads as dated before anyone even processes the actual length or color. It's not about the curl itself. It's about the uniformity. The fix is a modern textured pixie or short shag, cut with what stylists call varied diameter texturizing, meaning the layers are cut at intentionally different lengths so any curl or wave that forms afterward falls at different sizes naturally. The way texture actually grows rather than the way it gets set. Ask for this exact phrase. Cut varied diameter layers through the top and crown, and texturize the ends so the shape looks undone rather than set. That phrase alone tells your stylist you want movement, not a uniform rounded silhouette. What happens after this cut genuinely surprised me the first time I saw it finished. Because the layers are varied in length rather than uniform. Any natural wave or curl I have falls in slightly different sized pieces across my head instead of one repeating rounded shape. Some pieces curl a little tighter, some fall looser, exactly the way hair behaves when it isn't forced into a single mold. The whole thing reads as effortless, even though there's real technical precision behind every layer. The styling change that locks this in is just as important as the cut itself. Instead of setting the whole head into rollers or a uniform diffuser pattern, you finish with what's called piecewise styling, meaning you work a small amount of texturizing product through with your fingers rather than a brush, encouraging pieces to separate rather than blend into one smooth rounded shape. This single change in styling technique, applied to the exact same cut, is often the difference between a style that still reads as a set and one that reads as effortlessly textured. I'll admit I grieved this style a little before I let it go. Because it had been mine for so long it felt like part of my identity rather than just a haircut. But the first time I ran my fingers through the new texture instead of reaching for a rat tail comb and a can of setting spray, something shifted. It felt like my hair again, not like a shape I was maintaining out of habit. People stopped complimenting how neat I looked, which had always felt like a slightly backhanded compliment if I'm honest, and started saying I looked relaxed, current, like myself. The before was a tight, uniform curl set, identical rounded curls repeating across the whole head like a stamped pattern. The after is a varied diameter textured pixie, waves and pieces falling at different natural sizes, undone rather than set, effortless rather than maintained. 5 styles, 5 fixes, and every single one of them starts with a sentence you can say out loud at your very next appointment. You now know the exact 5 styles quietly aging you. And better than that, you know the exact words to say at your next salon appointment for each one. Internal layering, point cutting, a deep side part above the brow, woven lowlights, and varied diameter texturizing. That's not vague advice. That's a script you can walk in and use today. Which one of these 5 surprised you the most, the flat crown, the center part, or the curl set? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Next week I'm covering the exact questions to ask before any color appointment, so you never leave the chair disappointed again. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.